Final Fantasy XIV's ninja is one of the most unique jobs in the game. It's also one of the most challenging. In patch 5.1, it received some small changes to the functionality of its skills, and it's done incredible things to the way the job works. But the question is, has it lost anything because of those changes? That's what we're going to talk about today in my 5.1 Ninja Impressions. Let's get started. Before we dive into the impressions, I'm going to do a quick run through of the most noteworthy changes that were made in patch 5.1, and then we'll get started with the fun stuff. The ability Trick Attack had its direction requirements removed, and its potency increased from 340 to 350, and its effect was changed from a 10% damage taken increase for 10 seconds to a 5% damage taken increase for 15 seconds. Shadow Fang was changed from a combo action weapon skill to a weapon skill with a cooldown. It no longer has a 100% uptime, and its potencies were changed to compensate for this. The Tenchi Jin Mudra have been changed to global cooldown actions instead of off global cooldown actions, and they now have 2 charges. Each charge has a 20-second cooldown. Mudras have a 0.5 second global cooldown. Ninjutsus are also global cooldown actions now, and they have a 1.5 second GCD. The potency of all ninjutsu were increased to compensate for this change. Next, the Tenchi Jin ability was streamlined so that it only requires 3 button presses instead of 6 to use correctly. Finally, the ability Kasatsu was changed so that it allows the execution of Mudra and Ninjutsu without consuming a charge instead of resetting your Ninjutsu. So that's a brief flyover, and if you want to see more in depth what the changes were, then you can head over to the official patch notes. Now, the most important thing to say about the 5.1 iteration of the ninja is that it's still the same ninja that we know and love, but it's been streamlined a lot. And as a result, it feels a little bit different to play. So if you're someone that considers the job your main, it's going to take you some time to become accustomed to the changes, but the essence of the job is still the same that it's always been. But what does that mean? The most major changes that were made to the job were made to the Mudra and Ninjutsu system. In case you don't know, Ninja has to activate a specific combination of Mudra to change their Ninjutsu ability into an executable ability. There are 9 Ninjutsu abilities, and each one has 2 different combinations that will trigger them. That part of the system is still the same as it's always been, but what's different is, for the last 5 years, Ninjutsu and Mudra have been off global cooldown actions, and now they're on the global cooldown. What this means is, instead of weaving your Mudra and Ninjutsu in between your weapon skills, they take up their own space in your rotation, and I personally enjoy that a lot. There's something nice about having a separation between dealing damage with my weapons versus dealing damage with my ninjutsu. It feels a little bit less cluttered, a little bit less stressful, and more organized, and the best part is the job hasn't lost what made it exciting to play. There's a part of me that says Ninja feels a little bit slower because the ninjutsu is attached to the GCD, but the more I've fiddled around with the job and put it through its paces and training dummies and in dungeons, the more that sensation started to fade away. Something else I've been enjoying a lot about the 5.1 version of the ninja are the clearer windows of intensity in its rotation. A lot of ninja's skills are on a 60-second cooldown, and when they're ready to use, trying to use them correctly is a high-intensity challenge. On the flip side, once you're done going through your burst phase, things slow down considerably. You rotate through your weapon skills, occasionally cast a ninjutsu, it's pretty relaxing. But as those 60-second cooldowns are almost available again, I feel like I have to take a deep breath in order to say, okay, here we go, it's time for some big boy damage, and the big boy damage is real. When ninjutsu was shifted to being global cooldown actions, the potency of each ninjutsu action was increased to compensate for what is essentially a casting time. So now when I use Raiten, the thunderbolt that comes down from the sky really does slam down and feel like it's shaking whatever enemy I hit to its core. When I use Kasatsu, another skill that received a great quality of life change, my follow-up ninjutsu is either a 750 potency area attack or a 1200 potency single target attack, and it feels massively impactful. Impactful is a word that I use a lot in my impressions videos, and it can be either good or bad. If a job doesn't feel impactful, then there's generally something wrong. But in the case of the ninja, every button that I press feels like it has some oomph and some weight behind it. And that's something that I didn't really feel when I played the ninja before. Now, the weapon skill rotation is still basically the same, so not much has changed there, but just that little bit of extra punch in the ninjutsu adds a nice bit of, oh yeah, I'm hurting the boss. I'm doing some damage right now. The last thing I want to talk about is the job still being incredibly difficult to play. None of the changes were designed to make the ninja more accessible or less complex, just streamlined, and they worked. If you've been paying close attention to the clips on screen, then you probably noticed I'm not very good at the ninja, and there are a number of reasons for that. But none of it has to do with latency, the job being poorly designed, or the job being undertuned. My damage and performance with the ninja is directly proportional to how much I've mastered it, and when I have, I can say that I'll be proud of the damage I put out for 2 reasons. Number 1, it'll be better than it was when I was playing poorly, but more importantly, the job is tuned well enough that my damage output reflects the amount of work it takes to play well. They're also taking into consideration the fact that every 60 seconds I am increasing the target's damage taken from all sources for 15 seconds. So, to wrap things up, in direct contrast with my impressions in 5.0, the 5.1 iteration of the ninja feels worthwhile, and I would definitely recommend picking it up. It's challenging, it's powerful, it's exciting, and I think this is going to be a class that people want to have in their team compositions, whether they're going into a dungeon, a raid, or whatever. It's nice to have a ninja, and it feels good to be a ninja again. And there we go, that's going to do it for the impressions of the ninja. Patch 5.1 is ridiculously strong, and so many awesome changes were made, not just to the ninja, but to a lot of the different jobs in the game, and I am very excited to give my impressions of them, and eventually overview some of the jobs that I missed, like the Red Mage, and revisit the Summoner and give that a second look for a new set of impressions and even potentially a new overview, because a lot of things changed with it. With all of that said though, for now we are going to take a little break, but before we close out completely, I'd like to say if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support the channel more than you already do, you can head over to patreon.com/iBluairJgR to become a patron. As always, the name of the game is Final Fantasy XIV, the name of the channel is iBluairJgR. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.